Yeah, indeed so. Well, I'm going to be off tomorrow playing golf. So I can't criticise. I can't criticise unduly. But whether he should have come a bit earlier, you're probably right, Marianne. That's probably the criticism that there is. Anyway, we're out of time. Thank you both very much indeed for your company. Brian and Marianne will be back, of course, in some form in the programme in the future. It's lovely to have them aboard. Marianne will be here tomorrow. Thank you very much for watching. Good night.
The day's most important stories sent every weekday morning direct to your inbox. Subscribe at bbc.co.uk/newsdaily.
I'm Azadeh Moshiri in Washington, D.C., and this is BBC World News America. Chaos in France as May Day protests turn violent. Widespread anger again over plans to raise the pension age to 64. The United Nations warns of an escalating humanitarian disaster in Sudan. Fighting continues in the capital despite pledges to honor a ceasefire. Plus, some dishes fit for a king, but intended for the masses. We cook up some royal dishes ahead of Saturday's coronation. Welcome to World News America on PBS and around the globe. We begin in France, where more than 100 police officers have been injured in the latest protests over pension reforms. Demonstrators used the traditional May Day rallies to voice their continued anger against President Emmanuel Macron's plans. These protests have been widespread. Take a look at the figures. According to the Interior Ministry, more than 780,000 protesters hit the streets across the country. That includes 112,000 in the capital, Paris alone. But the country's hard-left CGT union says the figure is actually 3 times that number. At issue, of course, is President Macron's plans to raise the retirement age from 62 to 64. He signed the legislation last month, and the measures are due to take effect in September. Our Europe correspondent Nick Beek has the latest. To Sudan now, where the United Nations is sending its top aid official. Now, it's important to understand that over there, the conflict has developed serious issues because people aren't able to get MAP to those who need it. Despite the latest ceasefire, fighting continues in the capital Khartoum, and thousands of people continue to try and leave the country. An evacuation flight for British nationals from Port Sudan on the Red Sea has left, while those unable to leave by plane are taking boats. Across to Jeddah in Saudi Arabia, from where our Africa across the Red Sea has left, while those unable to leave by plane are taking boats across to Jeddah in Saudi Arabia, from where our Africa correspondent Andrew Harding has sent us this report. Well, our chief international correspondent Lise Doucette is in Jeddah. Lise, thank you so much for joining. You've been speaking to those who've been evacuated, those who've escaped. What are the stories they've been telling you? Lise, thank you so much for sharing that witness testimony with us. Now, the US House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has weighed in on tensions between the Biden administration and Israel's government. During a visit to mark the 75th anniversary of Israel's independence, Mr. McCarthy said he expects the White House to extend an invitation to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. But for his part, Mr. Biden has said he has no plans for such an invitation. That's been seen as a rebuke of Israel's controversial judicial reforms. Speaker McCarthy also vowed to fully support security funding to Israel for, quote, as long as I am Speaker. His comments came in an address to the Israel's Knesset. He's only the second speaker to address the body after Newt Gingrich did so in 1998. During a meeting with Mr. Netanyahu, Speaker McCarthy spoke of the historic bonds between the two nations. Now, speaking about the US debt limit today was Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. In a letter to congressional leadership, Ms. Yellen said the US could run out of money to pay its bills by June 1st. That's if Congress does not raise or suspend the debt limit. House Republicans passed a bill in April that would raise the debt limit in exchange for major spending cuts. Mr. Biden has dismissed the bill, saying it would hurt working families. Now, Ukraine is recovering from its second rocket attack in 3 days at the hands of Russia's military. One hit the city of Pavlohrad in the eastern Dnipro region. That's where there was the most significant damage. Russian military commentators said that the targets were warehouses storing military equipment for a Ukrainian counteroffensive. Local authorities say 34 civilians have been injured. Ukraine's energy ministry says these overnight attacks have also resulted in thousands of people being left without power in parts of 2 regions to the east of the country. All told, things could have been worse. Ukraine's military says it shot down 15 of the 18 cruise missiles that had been fired. Our Ukraine correspondent Hugo Bachega has more. He's been described as the godfather of artificial intelligence, but now Geoffrey Hinton is warning of the dangers of AI and products like ChatGPT if they fall into the wrong hands. Hinton worked as a Google engineer and helped develop the foundations for technology like ChatGPT. Last week, he quit his job and says he now feels regrets about his life's work. He's been speaking with my colleague, Sumi Samaskanda. That was Geoffrey Hinton speaking to my colleague, Sumi Samaskanda. Now, global financial markets largely welcomed news that troubled US bank First Republic would now be in the hands of JP Morgan. The Californian bank was swooped up in a $10.6 billion deal brokered by US regulators. First Republic had been under pressure since last month when the collapse of 2 other US lenders sparked fears about the state of the banking system. Well, we are just days away from the pomp and pageantry of King Charles's coronation. Let's skip the formalities and get right down to the food, because with a new monarch comes a new menu for the popular street parties that are held across the UK. Coronation quiche is the official dish for the big day. Fiona Lambden's been lucky enough to do some taste testing. And finally, it's the end of the road for one of rock and roll's most enduring bands. Well, almost. Aerosmith released a star-studded video today announcing their farewell tour after more than 5 decades together. The band members, led by frontman Steven Tyler, are all in their 70s. They're best known for hits like Dream On, Walk This Way, and I Don't Want to Miss a Thing. The 40-date tour starts in Philadelphia in September and ends in Montreal in January of next year. Unfortunately, no UK or European dates have been announced so far. That's all from this program, though. Remember, you can find more on all the day's news at our website. Plus, to see what we're up to at any time, make sure to check us out on Twitter. I'm at Azadeh_Moshiri, but plenty more BBC folks are on there. Thank you so much for watching BBC News.
Hello. Bank holiday Monday did not feel the same everywhere.